The alien princess pointed to the human man and said, "I want this human, Mom." Beginning, the arrival. When humanity first reached the stars, it was not with blazing armadas or triumphant explorers, but with tired refugees. Earth had grown restless, its skies poisoned, oceans rising, and resources dwindling. The United Coalition of Nations launched the ARC program, desperate to scatter humankind like seeds into fertile cosmic soil. Ethan Vera never thought he would be one of those seeds. A mechanic by trade, a survivor by necessity, Ethan was assigned to the Columbus 7, a colony ship intended for settlement in the Auriga system. But fate had a cruel sense of humor. Their ship was pulled from hyperspace by an unknown gravitational anomaly and forced to crash land on Terrava, a lush world dominated by sprawling jungles, shimmering crystal mountains, and rivers that glowed at night like liquid starlight. Half the crew perished. The rest, Ethan among them, scrambled to survive. But they were not alone. Within weeks, the survivors learned that Terrava was not uninhabited. Its rulers were the Valorians, a tall, elegant species with skin that shimmered like liquid silver, eyes that shifted color with emotion, and voices like woven music. The Valorians were technologically advanced, yet bound by strict traditions. And most importantly, they were wary of humans. The first encounter was tense. The Valorian queen, Seraphina Drael, arrived with her royal guards, her towering presence cloaked in flowing sapphire robes that shimmered like the night sky. At her side stood her daughter, the Princess Lyrie Drael, young yet commanding, her golden violet eyes burning with curiosity rather than suspicion. The queen spoke in perfect translation, her tone cold but not hostile. "You will remain here," she declared to the ragged survivors, "until we decide if your kind is danger or gift." The humans were herded into a holding camp on the edge of the jungle, supplied with food but under watch. And though most humans felt only fear, Ethan couldn't shake the sensation that the princess's eyes lingered on him longer than the others. Middle, the choice. Days bled into weeks. Ethan worked tirelessly repairing broken equipment, organizing makeshift shelters, and salvaging whatever tech survived the crash. He wasn't the ranking officer, nor the most educated scientist, but people naturally looked to him for solutions. One evening, as he worked on repairing a solar generator, he heard a voice. Soft, melodic, alien. "You fix things that should not be fixable." He turned to see Princess Lyrie standing alone, her guards keeping a discreet distance. Up close, she seemed impossibly otherworldly, her skin faintly glowing under the bioluminescent plants, her hair cascading like strands of molten silver. Ethan bowed awkwardly, unsure of Valorian etiquette. "It's what I do. Someone has to keep the lights on." Her eyes flickered from gold to a curious shade of emerald. "Our machines obey us. They never break unless neglected. But your machines, they resist you. Yet you fight them into obedience." He chuckled. "That's one way to describe engineering." That was the first conversation. It would not be the last. Over the next few weeks, Lyrie visited him often. Sometimes she asked about Earth, its oceans and skies. Other times, she simply watched him work, fascinated by the stubborn human refusal to give up. But gossip spread quickly among humans and Valorians alike. The guards began whispering. The other colonists eyed Ethan with unease. And soon, the queen herself took notice. During a royal inspection of the camp, the moment arrived. As Seraphina Drael surveyed the humans, her daughter suddenly stepped forward. Her golden violet eyes locked on Ethan with fierce certainty. She extended a slender glowing hand and said, her voice echoing through the camp, "I want this human, Mom." The camp went silent. Every human froze. The Valorian guards stiffened. Even the queen herself seemed momentarily taken aback. Seraphina's eyes narrowed. "Explain yourself, Lyrie." "He is different," the princess declared boldly. "He does not cower. He does not beg. He creates. He fights against despair, even when logic says to surrender. I want him near me." The humans exchanged uneasy glances. Ethan felt his heart slam against his ribs. The queen studied him for a long, suffocating moment. Then she spoke. "Very well. The human shall come to the palace. But know this, daughter, If he proves unworthy, his life is forfeit. And just like that, Ethan was pulled from his fellow colonists and thrust into the heart of Valorian power. Middle, the palace. The Valorian capital was unlike anything Ethan had imagined. Towers of crystal and living vines twisted together into impossible architecture, glowing bridges spanning across vast waterfalls, and aerial creatures carrying light in their translucent wings. Ethan was given quarters in the royal palace. Not a cell, but not freedom either. Always watched, always measured. Lyrie visited him daily, but their bond grew in secret glances and hushed words. She asked about human music, human food, human humor. In turn, she shared Valorian traditions, the way their emotions shaped the colors in their eyes, the songs they sang to attune their minds, the sacred ritual of choosing one's anchor, a companion who grounded their spirit in times of turmoil. Slowly, Ethan began to realize what she truly meant when she said, "I want this human." But outside the palace walls, not everyone welcomed him. Valorian nobles sneered, calling him primitive, unworthy, a distraction for their princess. Whispers of assassination circled. And within his own heart, Ethan wrestled with guilt. Had he abandoned his fellow survivors, left them to struggle while he walked in alien luxury? Then came the council trial. A faction of Valorian lords accused Ethan of manipulating the princess with tricks and lies. The queen, pressured by politics, decreed a challenge. Ethan would face the trial of resonance, an ancient test not of strength, but of spirit. Few aliens had ever passed it. No human had ever tried. The trial took place in a vast chamber of shifting crystal. Ethan stood alone, surrounded by illusions of fear and despair crafted by Valorian telepaths. He saw visions of Earth burning, his crew begging for salvation, Lyrie turning away in disgust. But he remembered her words, "You fight against despair, even when logic says to surrender." So he fought. Not with weapons, but with defiance. He screamed against the illusions, pushed forward when the floor crumbled beneath him, and refused to yield even when shadow figures clawed at his skin. At last, the crystals fell silent. Ethan collapsed to his knees, shaking, but alive. The chamber glowed bright, signaling his success. When he stumbled out, Lyrie was waiting. Her eyes shimmered with pride and relief as she rushed forward, ignoring the gasps of the council. She took his hand before all of them and declared, "He is mine. He is my anchor." Ending, the union. The declaration shook Valorian society. The queen was forced to accept it, not because she approved, but because the trial had proven Ethan's spirit worthy. Still, she warned him privately, "My daughter's heart blinds her. Do not think this spares you from the weight of our world. If you betray her, human, you will not leave this planet alive." Ethan bowed, meeting her gaze. "I don't plan on betraying her." Over the months, he grew into his strange new role. He was no longer just a mechanic, he became a bridge. He worked with Valorian engineers to understand their bio-crystal technology, sharing human ingenuity in return. Slowly, distrust between humans and Valorians softened. Trade began. Knowledge flowed both ways. But the bond that mattered most was the one between him and Lyrie. She was fierce, stubborn, endlessly curious, and unafraid of challenging both him and her own people. He, in turn, found himself inspired by her vision of a future where humans and Valorians stood side by side. One night, beneath the twin moons of Tarava, Lyrie took his hand and whispered, "Do you regret being chosen?" Ethan looked at her, at the alien princess who had turned his exile into something more. Not for a second. And when their lips met, it was not just the union of two beings from different worlds, but the spark of a future neither species had dared imagine. Because once, in a crowded camp of frightened survivors, an alien princess had pointed to a human man and said, "I want this human, Mom."